Hi, this is Erica Merrill, and I'm the founder of Perfect Legal Video. I'm very excited to have with us today Attorney Nicole Reeves Lavallee. She owns a real estate and family law firm out in the Worcester area, and we are very fortunate to have her with us every week discussing all sorts of topics that can save you lots of money by knowing about and answering lots of questions for us. And so I wanted to welcome you today, Nicole. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure. Now, today we are going to be talking about the real estate side of your firm, and we're going to be talking about mortgage trouble specifically. And, especially with COVID, are you seeing that there's a lot more mortgage trouble? Or I know that there were some grace periods during COVID that were granted to people. Maybe talk a little bit about that and what's happening now that that's all up.
They're definitely on the uptick. It's one of those things that, again, the banks basically had to give you this 2-year hiatus, if you will, to fix everything. And we'll just give you more time and give you more time and give you more time. And there were programs out there, there were loan modifications, there were other things that people could do, there were forbearances. A lot of those things were continuous. And again, all you had to do was say COVID, and magically you were granted it. And now that's mostly gone away. So now we're at this thing where most people are facing, oh my God, I really have to pay my mortgage and I really have to move forward. And more importantly, the mortgage companies are like, we're tired of covering your butts. We need to get our money and we need to get it now. So again, they might have given you that forbearance and allowed you to tack on that money at the end of the program, but they're not willing to do it anymore because they don't have to do it anymore. So they really is an uptick in, we're going to foreclose. We're not going to put up with any more of the owner's crap.
That makes sense because they are a business and they are fighting to stay alive too. So, we've actually seen banks going out of business after COVID. So it's no joke for them as well. And there's no one bailing them out right now, right? Is that right?
That is correct. Right now, they're swimming just same way we all are.
Well, there you go. So let's start with the basics. You're short on money one month and you don't pay your mortgage in order to pay for something else. And it might be even something like frivolous, but you don't pay your mortgage. What happens?
A couple things are going to happen. One, you're going to get hit with that interest, usually 3% interest that they're going to charge you. Two, if you're more than 30 days late, they're going to tack on a notice to your credit report saying, hey, you're more than 30 days late. So now you're hurting your credit by not doing that. So those are the two famous things. And obviously, as the months progress, they get a little nastier and nastier as time goes along.
I feel like we should do a whole talk on credit someday. But credit is a serious thing. And later on, you could pay thousands and thousands of dollars extra every month because you have bad credit. And so just letting this slide on your mortgage could have serious repercussions later on. And so that's good to know. So that's the first step. If you continue not to pay, what can a mortgage company do?
Ultimately, they can foreclose. They can basically sell your house out from under you. That's really what it boils down to. They have the ability to do that. They also have the ability to collect the money. So one way or another, they're going to get their security back. They lent you the money, you secured it with the house, and when you don't pay, we're going to take the house and we're going to sell it for you because you didn't follow through on your terms. And that's essentially what they're going to do, is they're going to start the foreclosure process and ultimately auction off your house.
I know people don't realize that sometimes. When you take a loan out, especially for a mortgage, you don't own your house, really. The bank does. And until you pay it off, you don't own your house. And that's a concept that is foreign to some people. They think that they can just keep the house. Now, there has to be a somewhat gradual escalation to just foreclosing. What are some of the steps leading up to foreclosure?
Well, obviously, the big steps is, come month 2 and 3 and 4, they're going to start harassing you. You're going to get those phone calls. You're going to get those letters. You're going to get all these notifications. They're going to be sending up smoke signals. And when they actually do get a hold of you, they're going to ask you, do you want to do a loan modification? Do you qualify for forbearance? Do you qualify for a short sale? What is your intent with this property? They really want to know how they can help you. Because as I've said a million times, mortgage companies don't want to be landlords, and they don't want to actually go and foreclose on your house. They don't want to auction it. They want their money. Their whole goal is, how do I get my money from this person? So they're going to give you several of those options. Now, of course, there's the people that don't answer the phones and don't read their mail and don't care. And at some point, you're going to get a certified letter from the bank that's going to say, we are foreclosing on your property. We have now sent it to land court. We are giving you a Soldiers and Sailors Act, which basically means if you're not in the military, you don't get a reprieve. And we're going to move forward with the auction. So you're going to be getting all of those notices. So first and foremost, when you get any of those notices, open the mail. It's a good concept. Just throwing it out there, guys. You really got to open up your mail. I get so many people that go, I'm just so in debt, I don't even bother to look. Well, the problem is when you don't look, and it's especially something like this, certified mail, somebody's signing for it. You've got notice. You've now told the the land court that, yeah, I'm aware of it, I don't care. They don't care that you didn't open it up. You got notice. So you really need to look at those notices. You really need to open them up. You really need to consult with an attorney, because there are options available. You're not going to know what those options are until you pick up the phone and until you open that mail.
And that is so true. And look, I remember being in my 20s and not realizing those things either, and just having a bag of mail that I didn't open. And one of my roommates said, why don't you open your mail? And I'm like, oh, I don't have the money to pay for the bills. What? Stupidity of your early 20s, right? But there are a lot of people that make that mistake. They think that if they can stick their head in a hole like an ostrich hiding from something, that no one can see them. And it's just not true. A lot of people think that you can be like an ostrich and hide your head in the sand and that nobody can see you. And it's just not true. And the sooner you learn that, the better off you're going to be. So like Nicole says, open your mail. So let's say that you've opened your mail and you've talked to somebody and you've decided, you know what, I don't see a way out of this. I lost my job. I don't see anything on the market for myself, and I don't want to have this on my credit. I'm just going to sell the house. How long do you have to sell the house? What do they give you?
It really depends on where you are. So again, you got that letter and you got it 3 months ago, and they're already in land court and they've already got a judgment against you. You're behind the 8 ball now. You're literally waiting for the bank to just go, we are auctioning it. And your time is very, very limited. Now, could it be under 30 days? Absolutely. But there's also that process. So again, if you opened your mail immediately and you came up with that conclusion and it's a first notice, we can absolutely get that property sold with the right broker. So it all depends on where you are when you get that letter and what steps you take before you go, hey, let's list it for sale. The longer you take, the more likely it is that you're not going to be able to get it sold. I had a property the other day that was going to be sold in 45 days, and we got it sold rather than foreclosure on the 43rd day. So yes, it can happen if you have the right person, but if you don't have the right people and the right broker and the right attorneys helping you, then chances are you will lose it. So again, timing is everything. Talking to the attorneys, talking to the brokers, as soon as you make that realization, the better off you are.
I mean, and that's really good advice. Obviously, get the right real estate person. And if you're opening your mail, it's just like finding out you have cancer, right? If you find out early, there's a lot of things that they can do for it. If you ignore the symptoms and you don't go to the doctor, then you might be out of luck later on. And I don't know if that's kind of a morbid example, but I mean, this does have to do with somebody's life and where they're living. So it can be a very, very serious issue. So let's talk about someone's worst nightmare, right? You're trying to sell your house and you sell it for less than the mortgage that you owe on it. And now you still owe money. What happens then?
Well, the real question is whether or not you're negotiating with the bank when you realize, hey, look, I'm selling this property for $350,000, but my mortgage is $400,000. If you're smart, and again, you hired the right attorney and the right real estate broker, we're going to ask for a short sale. And a short sale is ultimately going to forgive that remaining $50,000. Now, obviously, there's certain things that we need to show. We need to show that you don't have, $50,000 sitting in a bank account. We need to show that you don't have accessibility to, a retirement account that has $200,000 in it. We need to show certain things to the bank, but we can certainly go to the bank and go, hey, can you please forgive this money? We really don't have the means to pay for it. You're going to get paid almost in full, and can we call it a day? So if you get a short sale approved by the lender, then that $50,000 in that scenario is wiped out and you don't owe the money. If you do nothing and you come to the closing and you're $50,000 shy and you haven't talked to the bank, then the deal's ultimately going to fall through, or the buyer's going to go, where's the $50,000 you need to pay to close? So you're not going to be able to close without going through the process of a short sale and without getting approval of the lender.
So we're talking about a short sale before I ask you exactly what the definition of one is. I mean, and that is really important, how you have talked about the difference between just selling it and coming up short without talking to the bank, and then or actually getting permission to have a short sale. So let's just back up a second and talk about, what is a short sale? Why would you want that? And how are you able to get permission for this?
Like I said, a short sale is basically where you're asking permission to shortchange, if you will, the mortgage company from the amount of money that they are owed. Again, the biggest point is that you're asking for that forgiveness that wipes it off. You don't owe that money. They're not going to be hounding you and collecting all of that money from you for the rest of your life. The bad thing, if you will, is you're probably going to get a 1099 at the end of the year, and you may have to pay taxes on that. But again, it's not going to be the full amount, and it depends on how we're doing that. There's a state one and a federal one. The state one's going to be wiped out, so we don't have to worry about that end of it. So there are things that are going to hurt you ish, but it's still better than owing you $50,000. So again, approval is going to be going to the bank, talking to the right department. That is probably the hardest thing, because you want to talk to the foreclosure department. Yeah, but that's the loss mitigation department. And each company has their own terms, and they all change them all the times. And as an attorney, you just want to bang your head against the wall, because you're really talking to 25 people before you get to the right person. And then usually it's a team. And so then you get the list of all the information that they need. Okay, then you have to go back to your client and say, these are the 10 items that you need to give me document-wise to prove that we don't have the money. It's going to be your pay stubs. It's going to be, a financial statement of some sorts. It might be their financial statement. They might be asking you just for, a quick rundown. However they want to do it, it's up to the bank. They're going to be asking you for what your debts are. They're going to be asking you for proof of your debts. They're going to be asking you what you have in your bank accounts. Let me see your bank accounts. Let me see your IRAs. Let me see your 401ks. Let me see all those things. And just because you have them doesn't mean that they're going to not approve it. It means that they need to look at it. And again, they're going to take all of the circumstances. I only make $500 a week. and my bank account is $300, and yes, I have a retirement account, but it only has $50,000 in it. Okay, we know you need to have that to survive, versus somebody else that makes $200,000 a year and has a means to pay. So they're really going to look at those circumstances, and sometimes it's tedious, if you will, with the documentation that they need. But again, at the end of the day, when you're being forgiven anywhere from $10,000 up to, I've seen $100,000, that's huge and well worth it.
So why don't we talk about foreclosure, because that really is one of the scariest things that comes to mind. And when you see it in the movies, you just see somebody walking home and there's just a lock on their door and a sign, and they have to turn around and leave. And let's talk about what is foreclosure, and what can they take? Can they take everything in your house and sell it as well? It's just an interesting concept that has got a little bit of mystery to it. So let us know what we can expect.
Yeah, that's the movies. So let's talk about real life. The real life is that they will foreclose with you in the house, and they will tell you this property is being auctioned off on this day. It will not be shown. Do your own research. And then they will literally come out to your house with an auctioneer, and he will go through the whole steps, and they will take basically attendance, if you will, to identify the people, and you bid just like you would at any auction, where I'm bidding whatever, and the bank will be there. The bank is usually the only person there, but the bank will be there, and they will basically offer what they are owed. They're not going to buy it for more than that. Obviously, if John Smith's standing next to them and you owe 150 and John Smith wants to buy it for 175, they go, great. As long as we get all of our costs, we're good, right? Again, going back to that scenario. So a lot of times the bank will foreclose. They will purchase it for the amount that is owed. And then they, in turn, as would any person that buys this property, have to deal with evicting you. So now that you're no longer the owner, they are then going to go to housing court and serve you with the notices to evict you. And you can, dispute that you didn't have the knowledge and all that other stuff. And you can absolutely have all of your rights heard in housing court. But again, they're going to go, well, wait a minute, why didn't you show up for land court? So again, at some point, you're going to lose. Don't know how long it's going to be, don't know what your defenses are going to be, but you're going to lose, provided that the attorneys can show that everything was properly auctioned, the deed was properly transferred. Once they can show ownership, again, it's just a matter of time. So at some point, you're going to lose, and when you lose, they're going to issue an execution, which is essentially going to give you 48 hours notice to vacate. And if you don't move all of your property out within those 48 hours, then the constable or sheriff will be at the house knocking on your door going, get dressed, get as many belongings as you can, and get out. And that's what's going to happen. So again, once you already have it at foreclosure and it's already been auctioned, and then you go to housing court, and then you still don't get out, you really have enough time to go, I need to find suitable housing, and use that time to find suitable housing to get out. Unfortunately, like I said, that's what's going to end up happening. 48 hours, and they're going to remove you, and there will be a sheriff there that will keep the peace, if you will, but you will have to leave with basically whatever you can pick up, put in your vehicle, and leave. And then whatever's left will be trashed, because it now becomes theirs because you abandoned the property. They obviously have to put it in storage and follow all those other rules, but the reality is they're going to look at it and see whether or not it's trash or it's real, legit, and they'll put it in storage. And then after 3 months, you will lose it if you don't pay the storage fees. So at some point, chances are you're never going to get it back. So really, you have a lot of time between the mortgage notice, and the time to actually leave.
So what if they don't get all of the money once they foreclose and they sell the property? What if they just can't find a buyer to cover that, whatever's left that you owe?
Then the bank has the right to harass you forever. So again, when you're signing a mortgage, you're signing a mortgage and you're signing a note. The mortgage says, I'm going to pay the mortgage every month. The note says, and the mortgage also says, I'm going to pay it. And if I don't pay it, I can take the house. The note says, hey, I'm going to pay it. And if I don't pay it, you get to sue me. So at the end of the day, you might owe $50,000 because you didn't do the short sale in that exact same scenario, and they're going to file a lawsuit against you, or they'll just hire collections people. And once they do file a lawsuit, that judgment will remain outstanding for 20 years. So obviously it's in your best interest, again, to work with the bank as soon as you realize you're getting those notifications, rather than, again, being that ostrich.
I mean, and this is a really good time to talk about, and we're talking about the worst case scenario, and then you've got this stress for the rest of your life, depending on how old you are and how long you have. And there are simple things that you can do early. And I would say the first thing is to call Nicole. If you are in the area, if you're in Massachusetts, she can help you out. Her and her team are fantastic, and they have great strategies, and they do this every single day in court. So they know what's going to happen, and they can tell you, if you do this, this will happen. If you do that, that'll happen. And, what do you want to happen? So let's try to take that route and get as close to a good solution for you as possible. And what would you say, Nicole? What would be the best thing to do when you first find out that you're going to get behind on your mortgage, and maybe even before you have that first late?
Well, obviously, the best thing is to call the bank. Talk to them, see what they can do. A lot of times they can do something like a forbearance, which is, again, putting that interest in those payments at the end, giving you a 6-month reprieve that maybe you need that time to find that job or to do whatever is going on in your life. So maybe there's a short-term solution. Maybe you need to do a loan modification and just get the payments reduced. So you have, 15 years left on your mortgage. Maybe you go back to, I need a 30-year mortgage now, and that will cut my payments in half. Oh my God, that's so much easier. I've got relief now. I can breathe. So there are things that you can do before you even get behind. But I think you really need to educate yourself. You need to know your books. You need to really look at your budget. Know what your income is, know where your money's going, because sometimes it's just simple, like, oh my God, I didn't realize that I eat out 5 times a week and it's costing me $200, and I could just pack a lunch. Sometimes it's just that simple that people aren't realizing it until you actually sit down and go through your books. So really, you need to take a look at what you can afford, what's going on in your situation. Sometimes when you're going through that divorce and now you went from that 2 household income to that 1 household income, and you just can't afford it. And if you don't have children, you're not getting any child support, and there's no reason for alimony, and you're going, oh my God. So sometimes it's just that, and you go, well, wait a minute, I need to figure this out. But you need to talk to your financial advisors. You need to talk to an attorney. You need to talk to the mortgage company. A lot of times they will be willing to work with you on some avenues. The question is, again, what they can do for you really depends on how quickly you reach out to them.
It is amazing when you go through what you're actually paying for every month, how many automatic bills that you're paying that you don't even realize. And even apps on your phone, some of those apps charge you $10-20 a month. You have no idea unless you look through those bills with a fine-tooth comb and you get rid of them. And so get a roommate. There's a lot of things you can do to try to make up that money. But if you just can't, like Nicole says, then start taking steps to sell and get yourself out of it before it ruins your credit and you're never able to buy another house again.
Absolutely. I think that's a good point. And I think, the reality is, again, there's other options. You can talk to a bankruptcy attorney. You can do other things that we didn't talk about because, again, it's how can I save the house, or more importantly, how can I get money in my pocket or not have to pay money? But there are tons of options out there. And again, you're not going to know it if you don't pick up the phone and have a consultation with these people.
So those are the questions that I have today. I want to thank you so much. I feel like for the audience, this is a lot of great information about a very scary situation and that you think maybe would never happen to you. And then all of a sudden you're in that situation. Because I guarantee you, anytime this happens to somebody, they never thought it was going to happen to them. It's just your life happens sometimes and things that are out of your control. Or sometimes it's things that are in your control. But in any case, you don't see yourself in that situation. And it's just so important to have the right help and the right information so that you know how to go forward. And we're very thankful for you and all of your information today, Nicole. Really appreciate having you on the show today.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. I hope everyone has a great weekend, and thanks for watching.